Ban Ki-moon wrote a letter, it's published in The Guardian today, in which he urges the leaders of the countries around the world to come together and support an economic stimulus of global proportions. Not too much, actually, if you compare to the US stimulus, a trillion or something like that. His motivation is that if we don't do this, then the economies around the world will collapse. There will be protectionism, there will be social unrest. The poor people will suffer especially hard, and it will be one big chaos, and human development will take a step back. And we don't know where this will end. Probably war. That's what he worries about. Well, I think that you could take one. So his view is basically we have to keep the system going. We have to infuse it with cash, and make sure that everybody keeps trusting each other. But I don't think you can do that at all, and I don't think you should do that at all. I think if you look at the way that this is going, or has gone, and the manipulations that we have seen in the financial markets in the US, then we have to recognize that the whole trust basis of this system is bankrupt. There is no basically what the system does these days in the current situation is signal that it doesn't work. We have some bubbles in the past, some economical bubbles. And every time the US or Europe or some country either went bust and nobody noticed, like Asia, we in Holland barely noticed that there was a financial crisis there, and in the 80s we had a financial crisis in Europe. Each one at a time went bust, and then a new bubble came around. And every time some part of the world went bust, nobody took that as a signal that the system didn't work, that you couldn't have basically fiat currency, that you couldn't trust other people to manage the value of your currency, that the strategic interests were too big, and that governments had too big a benefit from fiat currency to treat it with any respect for the normal citizen and the man in the street, the workers and the savers. And for a long time, I'm not an anti-globalist, by the way. I don't mind trade at all, but for a long time I've argued against trade of, for instance, grain around the world and beef from Brazil to Europe, and that made no sense to me at all. And because it basically says that transportation is way too cheap and too easy, and it makes the strategic dependencies between countries uneven. So, for instance, we have very modern agriculture in Holland. We produce way too much milk and butter, and of course butter is made of milk. And for instance, France also has a wine culture and produces way too much wine, and that is all either destroyed or sold at a fixed price to keep these industries subsidized, so they remain in existence. And because they're of strategic importance, of course, I don't want to live in a country that can't produce its own food. That would, in any conflict mood, would mean immediate defeat if you're not able to feed your own soldiers. So, but that already shows that there's an artificial, there's negative impact of the globalization, which are artificially paved over by subsidies. And what way smarter would be that you go from a standpoint, say, okay, we do everything locally, we do everything as much as possible locally, and whatever we really need internationally or from another country, that we can import. But so you make everything that you can produce yourself very cheap, and if you want to import it, you make it expensive. And that sounds like protectionism, but yes, it is protectionism. And I think today we see how the world has not been protected. So it's not that stupid, actually.